overwhelming our healthcare system. The caregivers at San Juan Regional Medical Center need your help.
Our resources are exhausted. We're very limited on what we have the capacity to do because we're being overwhelmed with the number of individuals that are requiring ICU care at this point.
So what can you do to help? Most importantly, ignore the rhetoric and get vaccinated.
Continue hand washing, continue to wear your mask and social distance.
Help us so we can help you.
Eleven minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, the 23rd day of February, 2022. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin, and thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM, over the air, of course, here in San Juan County, streaming everywhere else on the planet from KSJE.com. And we also welcome our viewers who are watching this visual radio program. The video is streaming live this morning out to the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. We are glad that you are with us this morning, everybody, because coming up, we're getting an update from Farmington Schools. Superintendent Dr. Eugene Schmidt is here with me. He has brought some special guests. You will meet them, and we'll have a great discussion coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. And then later on this morning, Ron Price will be visiting me, talk about life in the sandbox, another great lesson from Ron coming up today, 8:50 a.m. on KSJE. Next hour, of course, it is Roving with the Arts, our classical music program. Mick Hess is featuring music from Bruckner this morning, Bruckner's 7th Symphony on the program, a special 90-minute edition of Roving with the Arts today on Wednesdays, of course, because that takes us to 10:30, and right on Four Corners, our local and regional author program. Tracy Hales-Vass is continuing her discussions with some New Mexico poets. Michelle Otero is her guest this morning. She is talking about her book called Bosque, Poems from the Bosque, coming up today at 10:30 on KSJE. And don't forget, you can also connect with KSJE on our Instagram page. And if you're a podcast person, we invite you to subscribe for free to podcasts from KSJE wherever you listen to podcasts. So you can check them out as well. Our weather forecast, we do have a winter weather advisory in effect for the Farmington area. It starts a little bit later on this morning and runs all the way until about 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, because we're expecting the snow and rain showers to start later on today, with a high today of 46 degrees. Snow continuing overnight tonight with a low of 23, and more chances for rain and snow showers in the forecast for Thursday. Colder weather tomorrow with a high only reaching 36 in Farmington, and then clearing up Thursday night with a low of 16. Partly sunny on Friday with a high of 42. Partly sunny on Saturday with a high near 40, and overnight lows, as you can see, in the teens. So let me introduce my guests who are here with me this morning to talk about Farmington Schools, as I mentioned. Leading the way, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Eugene Schmidt is here. Dr. Schmidt, welcome back. Good to have you here.
Scott, good morning, and I want to share that I've decided to name this Farmington Municipal Schools Week.
Okay.
So many good things have been going on that deserve recognition, celebration on the radio, and today it's kind of Farmington High Day in my green, but really there's just so many wonderful stories to share. Anxious to get on the radio today.
Very good. Well, we're glad that you are here. I thought you were going to say something about the weather for tomorrow's school classes, but we can't maybe predict that far ahead, right? But stay tuned, as we say in broadcasting, right? So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But welcome. Good to have you here. Isaac Gamboa is here, the athletic director for the Farmington School District. And welcton back. Good to see you here.
Good to see you, Scott. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Thanks for coming in. And also joining us here in the studio is Farmington High School wrestling coach, John Mason. Coach Mason, welcome to you.
Oh, welcome. Thank you for having me today.
You bet. Great to have you here as well. So let's get started, Dr. Schmidt. You were saying a lot of good things have been happening, and that's why I think you brought your two guests with us, because state championships have been coming back to Farmington School District, right?
Team and individual, and I'm excited for John and Isaac to share the last weekend that was a great success story for Farmington High and Piedra Vista High. So, Coach and Isaac, I'll let you folks talk about what a great state of wrestling we run in.
Yeah, last weekend is my first state tournament for wrestling. Coaching baseball for all those years, I never got to go watch the state wrestling meet. So, headaches and heart attacks the whole time. It was one of the most intense things I've ever seen. We did great. Both schools had some placers. and obviously Farmington High walking now with a state championship back to back now. All the while following state swim, girls state swim. We had some records broken at Farmington High. We had a PV diver place as well. So a lot of good things that happened this weekend. But I'll let Coach Mason talk about his team.
Congratulations. And the state wrestling tournament was held in Rio Rancho, was it not?
Sir.
Yeah. And so, Coach, congratulations to you. I think we have a picture of your winning team to display for our video audiences. But talk to me a little bit about the state tournament.
We come in last year. We had won it, and the kids really wanted to come back and do it again. They had talked about it all year long, and they were always concerned because football had won the bowl game and then was going for a championship, and everybody was like, "Oh, you're going to fall short. You're going to fall short," and that was one thing that we was able to keep the bird in the saddle with the kids, and they were like, "No, we're going to keep coming." And if you followed the tournament, we were down by 25 points at one point, and we got the team together and said, "Hey, here's who's remaining in the tournament. What do you think?" And my senior class stepped up and said, "Coach, we got this." And they did. They went out, and it took the very final match of the tournament.
How about that? And so this was their goal from the very beginning of the season?
Yes.
Was to get to the state tournament and bring home the blue trophy?
Yes, and they achieved their goals. And when you work with young people and you get to see them achieve their goals, it's just an awesome feeling as a coach.
Yeah, well, I bet so, especially after the years that students have had in schools and such, and some of the other things they've been having to do. And so, what were the schools that were in the way? What schools did you have to knock off to get?
Los Lunas came in with 7 seniors.
Right.
They actually were ahead by 11 points going into the final round of matches. We had 8 in, they had 6 in. Unfortunately for them, they lost all 6. And for us, we won all but 2, so we won 6. Then La Cueva. La Cueva is our own district foe. When we had some kids sick and injured, they came up and wrestled us and beat us at home and won the district title. And then we went down and we competed head-to-head, and we were just 9 points ahead of them for the state championship. And Javier Poza down there, he's got a great program. His son, as a freshman, just got his first state championship as an individual, and they're going to be a powerhouse to contend with for the next couple of years.
Got you. And so when you look ahead to next year, are you losing a lot of seniors from the team this year?
So I had 4 seniors, one who didn't qualify this year, but the other 3 were my 3 horses at the end. 2 of them taking 3rd, 1 winning it as the heavyweight state champion. Zeke Barunda, Victor Barunda, they're twin brothers. And then Keone Benali, and then Danny Duerto. There are seniors going out, but we're going to just keep going. I learned many years ago when Herb was Stinson over at Aztec was winning 10 in a row. You just replace them and say this is the next team to get it, and that's what we're going to do.
There you go. Well, you were telling me before we came on the air this morning about the pipeline you have kind of for wrestlers in Farmington, right? You started them pretty young.
Yes. Our youth program just kicked off Monday night, and we have 100 kids in there right now from K through 6. We have 25 parents that stepped up to help coach, so it's 4-to-1 ratio. So we're excited to get that going and get into our season. Our first competition is March 5th, runs through April 16th. We will host an event on April 2nd at Farmington High. We have 26 clubs now involved in that association, so there's a lot of competition there, and the kids at that age, I just want them to enter it and just become fans. If they never become a state champ or a contender on our varsity, I want them to leave being a fan of our sport.
Very, very good. Isaac Gamboa, let me ask you a little bit about that supply chain for wrestling in the Farmington schools and what that means maybe for future state champs.
Yeah, I mean, state champs aside, I mean, it's awesome to watch the kids raise their hand at the end and be that state champ. But at the end of the day, watching when you walk into Coach Mason or even the PV wrestling room and seeing high school kids just tons of them competing. That's really what's important about those youth programs, is building that interest and getting those kids plugged in, because nowadays they need something to do, and that's what keeps kids out of trouble. So having that pipeline that coach has, and both schools have good, strong youth programs, that's really what helps our kids stay plugged in and active.
Right. We were talking a little bit about a little different than maybe watching a baseball tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's 12 hours. I didn't know what I was getting into when I got there, but it's nonstop 12 hours, and I'm learning how to watch the board and who's next and how points are calculated, and these guys are writing stuff down. This guy has to beat him, and it's a fun event to watch, especially when you're looking at the team aspect of it.
Right. Very, very good. Dr. Schmidt, again, congratulations to Farmington Schools with more blue trophies for the hallways.
Yes, and I will add that the world is changing, and would love to have Coach talk about, we have women wrestlers now that are very competitive, and what I think may be a unique first ever, a brother-sister state champion. And so, Coach, if you'll just share how we have invited the whole arena of high school kids to be involved in these sports.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about women's wrestling.
So yes, it started 2 years ago. As far as New Mexico was starting to build it, it came into full sanctions this year. We had one girl the very first year. We had two the next. This year, the girls, three of them showed up and said, "Hey, we want to wear singlets like the rest of the boys do instead of just fight shorts." And I said, "Well, you have to have a team to get a team uniform." And so they went out, they recruited, they got 15 girls to come out. With that being done, they took 10 girls to their regional, which they called a district, 30 teams in Gallup. 6 of them qualified for state, most of any team in the state of New Mexico. They took second as a team there, and then got down to state, and Lily Del Garito, she's a soccer player that came in, and she took third at state. And then Ebony Smith, she won state. She is the program's first state champion. People who know anything about Farmington wrestling, I tell them I feel like the Bill Bynum of girls wrestling, because he started the program in 1963 for the boys. And I also feel like the Mike Enright and Roy Johnson of the boys right now, because those were the guys who put the first state championships up in Farmington high school history. So I'm juggling both of those programs, but the girls ended up 5th overall at state. As far as a boys champion, girls champion, be brother sister, Aztec had brother sister last year, and then now. Also, La Cueva had a brother-sister. But this one here was really unique because I coached their father of the Smiths, Ebony and Ivan Smith. I coached their father, and he passed away here not too long ago. So it was very emotional for them. They really dedicated to want to win for their father's remembrance, and they did it.
Nice. Great story. And what is it about the sport of wrestling that you hope your students learn about and learn from competing and from working as a team and things along those lines? What life lessons do you hope that your wrestlers take with them after they graduate?
Well, Scott, that's a great question, because that's why I got back in. I left for a while. I'm an employer. I own a trucking company here in the county, and I had trouble finding employees that wanted to show up on time, to do the task without their hand held, and to continue to work and to set goals to make things better for me as an employer. And I came back and said, wait, wrestling imitates life completely through, with hardships, and how do you get through and how do you get to the next. And when every once in a while you'll get some praise on your back and a tap on the back of, hey, great job. But there's a lot of times where you do a lot of things that people never recognize, but you go every day and get it done. And so that's that's how I was able to get where I'm sitting in this chair right now after 34 years of living in the Farmington area. And I know it works because I had to do it myself. And I hand that off to the children. And I tell every employer in town, if they see a Farmington wrestler on their application, call me. I'll guarantee you they'll probably be one of the best employees they get.
There you go. Very good. Isaac Gamboa, is that something for the rest of Farmington Athletics to instill in your student athletes?
Absolutely. Coach and I were just talking about that this week. He's got a great platform to stand on now to really express the hard work ethic and the life skills that can be applied through athletics. And because at the end of the day, athletics is just that vehicle to help teach life lessons.
Very true. Very true. Well, congratulations again to you, Coach. Congratulations to you and your team. And I guess the work starts now for next year.
It started yesterday.
You don't take a day off, do you?
No, I was already checking brackets on Sunday.
There you go. Very, very good. Well, thank you both for coming in this morning, Mr. Gamboa. The next, I guess now it's more spring sports, right? That starts.
We kick off Saturday, doubleheader here. Farmington High plays Miami at Ricketts Park. So it's been 3 years since we've been in Ricketts. So year one was COVID. Year two was the remodel of the facility, and now we're back in. So everybody come out, watch some baseball. Softball kicks off the very next week. So
Very
we'll
exciting. Well, and it's going to snow, so that is about, the timing's about right.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we're right on schedule, it sounds like, so that's very good. Well, thank you both for
thank you
coming
for
in.
having
Appreciate
us.
it very much. Dr. Schmidt, thank you for bringing them with you this morning, too. I appreciate
And I
that.
will say that I'm very proud of all of our student athletes and our coaches, and certainly the parent and the sponsor support that makes these things possible. It's a lovely bit of business, and what both Isaac and Coach Mason could, offer one more thought is, I'm always impressed with students, athletes learn how to manage time because they are also student academics at the same time as being athletes, and they do many things at home, so they really learn how to manage time. And I'm always proud of these young people because we see teams with very high GPAs. And so I know that you might be traveling to a wrestling match in La Cueva or a Trisco or someplace, but kids are studying on the bus. They're still students, and we walk these kids to graduation. So I was very pleased, Coach Mason, that you are already instilling those life skills that wrestling translates into a job and career of the future. But be very proud of these student athletes because they are also academics and regular kids along the way.
Very true. Well, and academics has to be an important part of any athletic program, I would think.
Yes.
I would assume you both agree.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, you take 3 state champions, they're all 4.0 or better. So there's a correlation between championship and academics greatly. I tell them, your GPA doesn't show how smart you are. It shows your work ethic.
Yes.
Very true. Very true. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Scott.
Great to have you here. But I know Dr. Schmidt wants to talk a little bit about some other things that have been happening this week, because he did mention earlier that this was an important week for Farmington schools. And again, it's not every day that the State Education Secretary pays you a visit, and that's what happened yesterday, right, Dr. Schmidt?
Yes, when we talk about academics, our community needs to be very proud of our students pre-K through 12. And the work that they're doing. Yesterday, the Secretary of Education, Dr. Steinhaus, came to visit Mesa Verde Elementary to raise the blue ribbon flag. It takes years of continuous academic improvement by kids to earn this national award. It was presented to Principal Schroeder and her teachers last November. And we were supposed to have a day in the legislature about a month ago, but our community will remember that's the day we had the snow day. And so I informed our governor that we would not be able to travel to Santa Fe to receive the recognition at the Roundhouse. And in a gesture I thought was wonderful, the Roundhouse folks offered to come here. And so Secretary Steinhaus was here. He visited classrooms, and what was especially fun, I think one of the pictures may show it, but he taught a math lesson to a group of first graders. And in this particular essay or this lesson, he was trying to help them understand what 3.76 billion looked like in terms of real dollars that we as New Mexicans spend on public education. And we'll talk about legislation in a little while, but it will mean a nice salary increase for our coaches and our teachers across the district and our staff. But the kids were impressed with how long a number 3.76 billion is. Literally a whole across the whole chalkboard or whiteboard. But he said some really nice things that were well deserved by our students, staff, and community. And it was just nice that he would bring the flag and the proclamation and give Mesa Verde a very special day.
Very good. It looks like he kind of made the rounds, too, around the district. We're seeing him maybe getting interviewed by one of your students and doing some other visiting, right, while he was here.
Yeah, so this is really a tribute to the work of Isaac and Frank Whalen before, because Secretary Steinhaus was the person that followed me as superintendent in Los Alamos. And so Secretary Steinhaus shared the story that Los Alamos was playing Farmington in football, but it was a road game. They were playing up here. And he said, well, I really want to watch the game. And he said, well, you can, because Farmington streams the games. And so he shared with me, he said, I got to have one of those. And right. So what he was sharing, and this I want to say should please the whole community, Scott, is that he then said, Farmington is always ahead and sets the way. They provide a model what other schools could or should be doing. So I know that now Los Alamos streams their games, but Frank and Isaac were way out front of that story. And as part of that, John Curry and his live broadcasts of not only games, but events like graduation. These things are seen around the world, and our kids are making a name for themselves as well as their school. And I'd love to have John introduce this young man who's interviewing Secretary Steinhaus in the picture that they would see to the left.
Yeah.
So that's
who are we seeing?
That's Ezekiel Barunda, and he has a twin brother, Victor Barunda, and they were my Ezekiel was my 195 who took third, and Victor was a 220 that took third. And Coach Gamboa had talked with them yesterday about how to watch them wrestle back to back on the same mat or side by side. And at one time, you're talking about double vision. They were both wrestling Las Cruces High at the exact same time on mats side by side, and you're trying to remember who's on this mat and who's on that mat. But Ezekiel is a great young man, great leader of the program. He is a multiple state placer, and a 3-time, I believe, because he did sit out 1 year with a knee injury. But he's going to be somebody that he might just be as popular as Scott Michlin someday.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, that's okay. I'm not getting any younger, so that's all right, Very good. Well, congratulations.
But we see these young people, and we just appreciate the work of Johnny Curry, because he's involved in swimming. We probably could talk about that. So, he's doing the work in the classroom and also thinking about the work on the coaching. But the opportunity that he has given students through not only live TV but radio broadcast really helps shape a vision for what career opportunities, how that gets going. And I don't know if you had a media class when you were in high school, but these kids are just having an amazing experience broadcasting around the world, and they're still in high school.
Right, Coach?
So when La Cueva came up and visited, one of their assistant coaches is Eric Green, the weatherman for Channel 7 in Albuquerque.
Oh.
And the first thing I said, you need to see this facility. And Coach Curry graciously took him through their media facility, and he was very impressed. He was like, there was colleges that wish what Farmington High has in the media.
That's very true, and a great kudos to FHS because they've really done a lot, and Johnny Curry too, and so kudos to him. So very good, Dr. Schmidt. There's another note on this slide that talks about mask mandates being lifted at Farmington schools. Of course, we heard the governor declare that for the state last week, but left it up to the local school districts to decide how they would proceed. And so Farmington schools have decided to lift their mandates. Huh?
Yeah. So if it's possible to bring back the wrestling state championship picture.
Yes, right.
Would be fun to see that moment because
this one.
We're delighted, with the governor's decision to allow mask as a personal choice. And that's what Farmington Municipal Schools has. And if you were to walk the halls, you'd see half of the students in mask, half of them maybe not. And there's a great deal of respect for the personal choice because we honor what people choose to believe in their own health and safety practices. But I was so pleased that this change in the mask, to personal choice allows these wrestlers and all of those kids to celebrate and raise their hands and be known for their faces as opposed to just their eyes and top of their nose.
We can see those big smiles. Yes, exactly. Very, very true. Well, that's wonderful. And again, another move forward, and the case numbers are lower, and that's again what's kind of driving some of these decisions. At least that's my understanding.
Yes, and I appreciate that because we are watching. Everything. Wave took on a whole new world during pandemic. As you watch waves of whether it be the COVID-19 or Omicron or what, but we are on the downside of that. Literally, students and staff, we had just under 1,000 confirmed COVID cases in December, and up through January. Now we're already halfway through, almost the end of February. We've seen numbers below 300. And so we are on the backside of the curve, and I'm sure the governor and Dr. Scrace from the Department of Health are looking at the same kinds of data that we see, but we are seeing a decided decline, and I think that gives us the confidence within our school system to say, okay, because we're looking at 11,000 kids, almost 1,900 employees, and 200 cases. And so we think that kids have learned how to social distance. We still wash our hands. We still try to be careful. But it is so exciting to have school, kind of back to normal. We know that we're working our way that way. But it is such a wonderful feel to be able to see the smiles on the teachers and the kids' faces, and just a lovely, Coach Mason, a lovely wrestling moment to help celebrate that.
Oh yeah, and a great thank you to the school nurses and their assistants and the trainers. I mean, they had such a paper overload, and I worked firsthand with them constantly, making sure a kid, if they were in quarantine, when to come back, when those things and stuff. And they worked really, really hard. I mean, with a lot of due diligence. I know there was times where I would call them 8, 9 o'clock at night when I got notices, and they immediately got to work on those. So a big shout out to all those nurses and such.
Right, indeed. Very good. And let's talk, Dr. Schmidt, about, we just have a couple of minutes remaining this morning, so there's a few other things. Dr. Schmidt informed me this morning he's still planning on retiring at the end of the school year. I keep thinking he's going to change his mind, but that hasn't happened. So the search is underway to fill the very large shoes that you are leaving behind, Dr. Schmidt. So what's the update there? Anything?
Yeah, and I thank you, Scott, and special shout out to the school board for being very thoughtful in the superintendent search process. The community would be pleased to know that they're collaborating with Tom Sullivan, who was superintendent here a number of years ago, who's now actually in a search consulting, I'll call it headhunter kind of business, and Dr. Hugh Prather, who was the gentleman that helped me, come to Farmington. So they're collaborating with the school board, and right now the end of the thought process so what kind of candidates are we looking for? What is the process? How do we introduce people to the community? Those are the thoughts that are taking place, and Board President Thompson will be sharing that with the community on March 8th. But what I will share is the call or the official opening to invite applicants is somewhere around February 28th, with the closing of that around the 20th of March. Sometime around that first week of April, I anticipate the board will be interviewing and making a potential offer to the next superintendent, with the thought that that person would then become officially the superintendent in July of this year. So it will be serendipitous and melancholy and a couple more months of celebration, because I am very proud to have been part of the Farmington story for these 7 years, and working with people like our athletic director and coach, just makes this a really special place. And I'm looking forward to our last broadcast, when maybe we can just reminisce over just how much was accomplished in the 7 years that I've had a chance to be part of the Farmington family.
I think that would be great, Dr. Schmidt, but it's only an hour show. We might have to go a little longer on that program, but I'm going to keep nagging you about this until that last program, if you don't mind.
Yes.
And you'll indulge me. The budget process is underway, and just really quick, raises, you mentioned it earlier briefly, but big news out of the legislature. Those level 1, 2, and 3 teachers statewide will be seeing a fairly substantial pay increase, and other raises coming to other school staff as well.
Yes, and I'm very excited because, again, I give our school board credit. Our school board 3 and 4 years ago took petitions to the state that talked about 40, 50, 60, 50, 60, 70. Our board has been very focused on honoring all of our school employees as professionals. And it is with delight that the legislature has finally heard that call. And so when our teachers come back, we will be coming back to 3 tiers, be kind of beginning, middle, and, after your master's degree or your tenure, but 50, 60, 70,000 employees across the district will qualify for a 7% increase in pay, and it's much deserved. They work hard. I would say that during these 18 months where we shifted into remote and many of our parents were the first teachers, I think there's a whole new appreciation of how hard teachers work and about how important their lives are to the betterment of the future careers of our kids.
Very true. Well, and we're hearing a lot about shortages of teachers, not just New Mexico-wide, but nationwide.
Yes.
And so I think it's hopeful that maybe this will keep New Mexico a bit more competitive when recruiting teachers and getting folks in to fill some of these vacancies, because I know you still have openings in the district midway through the year.
Yes, and I would share that the raise in salary, I'm hoping, brings in a new interest level, not only for the seniors that Coach Mason's about to send off to college, but the kids who are in school and maybe can think, well, I can shift my career and maybe think about education, or even second career people. But there's a whole new way of opportunity that we'd love to get you into the schools, and there's still time to come and apply.
Very true. Well, Dr. Schmidt, we are out of time. This happens to us every time we start talking to each other. We run out of time. But thank you for coming in and bringing these great guests with you. I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming in as well. Thank you very much, and congratulations once again. My guest this morning from Farmington Schools, with me this morning here on KSJE. KSJE and San Juan College present the Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week.
Hello, my name is Emin Chi from the Student Achievement Center. We are bringing you week 6 of Coaching Tips of the Week. Learning new information. Students learn new ideas by relating them to what they already know, and then transferring them into their long-term memory. Meaningful practice with content can both cement student learning and making it easier for students to remember content in the future, enabling them to tackle increasingly complex challenges. The more knowledge that students have about a specific problem, the easier it will be for them to recognize the important aspects of the problem and how to solve it.
The Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week, presented by KSJE and the Student Achievement Center at San Juan College. KSJE is supported by the Farmington Civic Center, bringing a full slate of entertainment to Farmington and San Juan County. The Story Goes On, Friday, February 25th at 7:30 p.m. The Farmington Civic Center, 200 West Arrington in downtown Farmington. Find out more online at fmtn.org/shows or 505-599-1148.